Hey, what's up guys? Sir Emanon here, and welcome to another episode of Road to 1000 Dueling Book Rating. This time I'm going to be back on Gouki, and we're going to be up against Sky Striker today. So yeah, I just want to first off thank you guys for sticking with me this week, as of course it was my midterm week. I had two midterms and I had a presentation, so quite busy for me, but things should be lightening up this upcoming week, so I'll be able to pump out more videos for you guys, and hopefully you will be able to just enjoy watching. I have a lot of different things planned, as like things like obviously this series, the Cheap Competitive Contenders series, which you guys should check out if you haven't as well. And I'll also be having some future match commentaries pretty soon from my ongoing Discord server tournament, so that should be also pretty exciting. So if there's anything in particular, content-wise, just that you guys want to see, let me know. And I will do my best to see what I can do. But yeah, obviously with school, still pretty busy, just as a general sort of thing, because school never really relents until it is actually over. But yeah, I'll be able to actually have a bit more free time for the next couple of weeks until I have more exams. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. This is, like I mentioned, going to be Gouki up against Sky Striker, and our opponent wins the die roll, but is going to make me go first. And this game one is going to be a pretty weird game one, because not a lot happens for the first part of it, because we both brick. So you can see our opening hand is just a lot of garbage, as in a lot of hand traps. So notice that I changed my deck list quite a bit, and you'll notice that it's 50 cards as well. This is actually not even the build that I am currently on as of the recording of this video. I tend to change my builds of like every deck very, very often, like at least on the daily, or at least every day that I play, I like test out something new. So yeah, whenever I like upload a deck profile, it's kind of just a template, because honestly, everything I put up is just subject to change. So I tried like playing more hand traps, and just increasing the deck count so that I can like have a relatively still pretty consistent deck, while drawing the bricks less ideally, while also having the availability to draw hand traps. But we drew too many of those, and we drew Phoenix Blade. But our opponent also doesn't really have a whole lot other than the Desires. So yeah, basically we're just going to be passing this turn, because there's not really any point in committing to the board. We just imperm and then gamma. Like, I could maybe set the imperm, but that's like very minor. Our opponent draws Nibiru, so they're going to use Desires, and they also do not find anything off of it, just more hand traps. So yeah, opponent has also bricked on their hand traps and their cards that are other parts of their engine. So they're gonna set Widow Anchor, pass. We draw Eagle Booster, which is another card that I've been testing. This is a card that I really do like. It's a card that I've kept in my build. Some of the other cards I've kind of swapped back and forth, but Eagle Booster I found to be extremely helpful as far as just a way to play 3 hand traps better. I really do like it as just a very wide coverage card, because like you only have one definitive choke point. So it's pretty obvious where most of your opponents are going to hand trap. So like this is a really good card to just ensure that you don't get hand trapped, and it'll come up probably in future videos. I can't remember which episodes that I have lined up to record, because I typically play these games and record them a couple of days or so afterward. But yeah, this card definitely puts in work in some of the games, and I have been enjoying it. For some reason I forgot to set the imperm here. So it should be setting both the imperm and honestly I don't even need to set the Eagle Booster, because I could just leave everything in hand, because for some reason I guess I thought my hand size limit was 6. I don't know what my thought process was here, but it's clear that my opponent has bricked, so it's not really going to be super consequential at this point. They draw another Nibiru. We draw a Nibiru of our own, and then they draw a Droplet that they're main decking, so they set Ash, which is actually pretty relevant because it turns off their striker stuff. They could have set the Droplet just so they can keep their main monster zones pretty vacant. We draw another Eagle Booster. So you can see we're just not finding a single Gouki. And it's funny because even though I upped the card count to 50, I also increased the Gouki count. So that's pretty unfortunate on that end. But our opponent finally finds a play in the Rose. So they're going to link it off into a Hayate, go for the battle phase. And then we're just going to gamma its effect because it's not Ray, so we can just get rid of the striker link, no problem. And it is back to passing. Opponent sets the Droplet, and we just banish our Cyframes. We finally draw a Gouki. We need any Gouki to just start, so we finally just go ahead and make our Isolde. And again, if our opponent did hand trap us here, which I'm assuming that they're bricked on hand traps, right? Because obviously, like we know they're on striker, and we know that they play a lot of hand traps, and I haven't made a single play, so they haven't had to use any hand traps. So like you can infer that their hand is concentrated with hand traps, and definitely not engine cards because they didn't make a play until last turn. So we grab our search for Headbat, and we grab our search for a Twist Cobra. And then here I'm expecting to get hand traps. I'm like, okay, we can just use our Eagle boosters and protect ourselves, but they actually let the Isolde go through. Probably just trying to wait until they can slap a Nibiru onto the board, which is also fair. One thing I could have done was like probably just chain the Eagle booster to the Isolde, even if it resolved, just because, like, you know, if my opponent did Nibiru me after this Headbat summon, then it's just an extra body on the field, which can definitely be relevant. But I elected to not do that. Probably should have, though, because like these Eagle boosters are kind of just sitting there. Another thing I could have done was like use one Eagle booster for the Isolde and then use another one here. That's like a thing that could have been a possibility for sure. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and grab our Gouki searches. Our opponent's very, very patient with their hand traps, which is fairly reasonable because like I have to, like they're forcing me to commit to a bigger board, and then they're trying to punish me, which is pretty smart. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and rematch two of our Goukis back, and then we're going to go for the Codebreaker stuff. The goal isn't necessarily to like build the biggest board, but I do want to clear the back row, and the Virus Berserker actually has an effect to where in your main phase you can destroy spells or traps up to the number of linked Codebreaker monsters on the field. So like once you bring back your two Codebreaker monsters, right now you have 3 linked Codebreakers, so you can pop 3. And that actually doesn't target. So that's like the goal is to try and just wipe the board. Hope that like the Appaloosa can just play around Nibiru and just try and go for game. Because I figured if my opponent's not like committing, I kind of have to try and just brute force my way through. Because I know that eventually if it comes down to a grind game, I'm probably going to lose it. Because it's striker, and I'm only playing 2 rematch in this build. So our opponent actually, in response, changed Droplet to send the Ash and an extra Nibiru to negate both the Appaloosa and the Virus Berserker, which definitely was unfortunate because that turns back on their striker spells and traps, or sorry, just spells. Turns on the striker spells and also makes it so that my board is vulnerable to Nibiru again. So that was a big power play, just holding the Droplet for that long. So at this point, I'm kind of just in a bad spot. I have to see if I can just clear the rest of the board. Because like if I lose to Nibiru, I lose to Nibiru anyway, so I might as well just commit. So I decided to just go ahead and grab Rusty. And I don't even grab Frogblade here. I grab another material because the plan is to just try and link to Phoenix and Unicorn. You're about to see how we do that. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and try and go for a Phoenix here and kill one of the back row. We target... I can't remember which one I targeted, but it's probably, I think it was a Shark Cannon that I did target, and they chain it to get rid of the boots, which, you know, was unfortunate because I was hoping to get Frogblade off of that to stop like another, to stop like a Kagari if they got access to another striker monster. But yeah, that is unfortunate. We draw a Super X off the Phoenix Co-Link, and then we're going to grab our Phoenix Blade back and then go for Unicorn after flipping up our Shade Brigandine. I'm just trying to get value and see if we can draw into more stuff like actual hand traps we can use, or if we can maybe hard draw the Fog Blade, or hard draw the Fog Blade. Interestingly, they don't chain the Widow Anchor to like steal and just fade out the battle phase, but it's probably just because they're going to Nibiru anyway. So maybe just saving that so they can like get it later, possibly if they want to like hard draw it. But either way, it's definitely not going to be game, just given the fact that this is going the way it is. Our opponent does drop a Veiler on the Verte, and then decides to Nibiru. I thought this was kind of interesting because they could have just Nibiru'd us and saved the Veiler. But yeah, I guess it didn't end up making like a huge difference. But yeah, our opponent draws a Mystic Mine for turn, and I'm trying to think if like there was a way that you could have gamed me this turn. I think Access Code was game, provided they were able to resolve it. But I do have an Imperm set for the Fiber Push. So like they do eventually go for it, spoiler, but I'm just trying to think if they could have done it this turn, but no. The token is 2600 is 0, so just speed over it and pass. We have a lot of like warriors still, but we're running it low on like actual extra cards that get us, you know, a mass surplus of monsters. And now I'm afraid of Nibiru. Granted, maybe I just shouldn't have been respecting it that much. You're gonna see that I just try to play around it. And it's true that in hindsight, they they didn't banish any off the desires, but I'm like, I probably should have reasoned that the first one was pitched off of the droplet, the second one's on board, so the third one is pretty unlikely to be in hand. It is a possibility though, and it's something I was like still considering because like, I don't know what my opponent has because like they still, after the one rose that they got, they just haven't been able to find any striker monsters, right? So we're just trying to be a little bit cautious here. I go ahead and I use my rematch to bring back Guts and Suprex, and then I go for a Link Karibo so I can get, I believe, Headbat to hand because I'm out of rematches. And from this position, I haven't normal summoned, but I can just use Firefront Lady as well. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. This actually is already over 5 summons, but I'm just trying to see like if I declare end of main phase, if they drop Nibiru, I can like still maybe play a little bit afterward. Yeah, I probably should have just gone for it, like just go big or go home, like if I just normal summon Suprex and then special summon another Gouki and then go for access code plus like red layer plus Suprex would have like very likely been game. That would have been what, 38 plus probably 43, which yeah, that would have been game. So I definitely could have just gone for it. I shouldn't have been scared, but I don't know, for some reason I was just playing too cautiously around Nibiru. It was too safe. I should have just gone for it. If they had it, they had it. But here it leaves myself open to this Mystic Mine, as you can see. But my opponent does like a pretty interesting play instead. I said this just as like another defensive card. And instead of dropping mine right away and passing, I guess my opponent also just felt the need to swing the game state as quickly as possible because they can't sit on mine forever since I have more cards in deck. So I think their thought process was to try and push. So they go for Widow Anchor to steal, and then go for Summon of Ash, and they go for Hulk this turn. And you have the Imperm that I've been holding on to from pretty much the entire game. And then my opponent decides to, clear my board a little bit and then go Mystic Mine in phase 2. And here I'm like, well, this is actually fine because I still have enough materials to go for Appaloosa anyways. So yeah, I'm able to just go ahead, grab my Gouki Search, activate Appaloosa, or not Appaloosa, access code to bump its own attack, and then pop the mine, and then pop the Hulk, and then this is 4,300 damage. So I could have done that one turn sooner, definitely. I was just playing a bit too safely. There comes a point where if you see double Nibiru, like even if they bricked for that long and they just haven't found engine cards, the likelihood of them having a third one is just so small. Sometimes you just have to go for it. But yeah, moving on to game 2, I expect my opponent might make me start again, but they actually choose to go first. But I don't draw any of my side cards anyways, so it doesn't really make a big difference. But yeah, opponent also doesn't draw very well this game either. But they do draw themselves a Widow Anchor and a Nibiru. They just set one and pass. I'm pretty sure the only other field spell is Mystic Mine besides Area 0. So yeah, giving me mine wouldn't make like a whole ton of sense. I mean, I guess you have like tried to find a play, but I think they just felt pretty safe around just having their hand traps. Interesting that they set Shark Cannon instead of Widow Anchor. Because I guess the Shark Cannon's better against the PKs, but if you Shark Cannon one of the rematch targets, you still get to summon one of the rematch targets. It just tries to resolve as much as it can. So I don't know. I feel like Widow Anchor probably would have still been better just in general, but I can understand my opponent not wanting to set both and not like lose to Lightning Storm. But I go ahead and normal summon. Oh, this is another change that I was like testing, which was upping Octostretch and Guts both to 3, just to see if like drawing the level 1 Gokis would be good. I bumped down like Twist and Headbat for a little bit. This is not what I'm currently on. I'm not currently on 3 Octostretch, but I was definitely testing around with it for a little bit. I misclicked there. I did not mean to go Battle Phase, but we're gonna go into Isolde, and then go for a triple search of Headbat, Rematch, and Philogoki. And then we just try and push as much as we can, or like just see how far we can get, like what we can get away with. Just basically try and go for the normal line. I make a slight deviation though, because I go for Phoenix first. So I'm thinking like, okay, if I can reduce the board to where the only interruptions that I have to consider are hand traps, like we're basically okay against hand traps for the most part, like with this kind of hand. Given the fact that like we opened Super Gouki. But yeah, we get punished with the Shark Cannon because they just banished the cloak that we pitched for cost, which is unfortunate. I could have possibly just used Phoenix Blade first and then banish that. But yeah, did not do it that way. So I end up losing out a little bit because I just wanted to get value off of this because this is the worst PK card to draw. So I just wanted to engrave, but Shark Cannon definitely was a little bit annoying there. But here I go for Appaloosa for 2 because again I'm just trying to insulate myself against hand traps. But on summon they drop Mourner, which forces the Appaloosa, and then they drop Nib. So yeah, that is definitely unfortunate. We do have, of course, follow-up because we have rematch still. But I'm glad that we got that out of the way. That's like one of the disadvantages with Mourner is that it has a very specific activation timing. Like it is a very, very precise window that you have to use it, unlike something like Valor or Imperm. So that kind of worked out in my favor a little bit there. We go for Link Spider. We could have if you don't play Link Spider, you could have just used the 2 Goukis to make Verte, but having Guts on board is nice just because it guarantees that you get another search later on, just to leave a Gouki on board. And it is relatively... it's just painful to clear because it's not a hard monster at all to out, but just the fact that you can't kill it in battle makes it so that you actually have to use something, like use a resource to get rid of it, which, it never feels good to use a resource on a level 1 Gouki. But yeah, we're gonna just make Dragoon here. And here I'm like, right, would it be game if I popped or negated my own Verte? And the answer is no. So I don't have any way of putting anything else on board. So just go ahead and get in for whatever damage. And I leave the Verte on field because I don't really mind having it there against this matchup because it's not like an opponent's gonna really kill me in most cases. And I would rather just have a potential Link 2 material for next turn. Our opponent draws Valor, which is a little bit too late to stop the Verte. And they decide to use Afterburner, and I let that go. I have to consider, what I'm trying to negate with Dragoon. I'm like, do I really care about Verte leaving? Not really. Do I care about my Guts being taken by Widow? Not really. So I let this all happen. This is all fine. They normal summon the Valor, and they go for a Hulk play. And then I go to negate it with a hard draw and Fog Blade, which I thankfully got, because if not, they were going to try and Mystic-Mine me. It turns out after the fact, they banished both of their 2 copies of mine that they play, which is what they told me. So that is, it wouldn't have made a difference anyway, given just the way that the desires struck out. But yeah, this is kind of just how you can simplify the game state in the control matchups, even if you don't draw back row removal cards. Just try and force out as much as you can. And then the way I like to look at it is, again, kind of what I mentioned earlier, is that if you can make the game state kind of just to where you're just reducing the subset of the interruptions to hand traps as opposed to back row, that's a very, very nice way to kind of just simplify your thought process. Because once you know the pool of cards that can be interacted with, because with back row it could technically be anything. It could be the engine cards, it could be floodgates, it could be disruptive cards like Strike, for example, or Judgment. It could be literally any type of disruption, whereas with hand traps, there's still a fairly diverse number of them, but that it's limited to Ash, Valor, Nibiru, Gamma, Imperm, possibly Ogre, Droll, Mourner, stuff like this. But you pretty much know what hand traps exist, whereas if it's back row, there's way more things that it could be. So that's kind of the way I like to approach kind of these control matchups. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comment section down below. Feel free to subscribe for more informative and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content. If you want to, you can follow me on Discord, Twitter, or Twitch. All 3 links in the description as always. And once again, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys.